Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a situation that is just absolutely fascinating. Right now, India's government is facing its biggest youth-led challenge in years. We're talking about a massive Gen Z uprising that's become known as the Cockroach movement. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how a bizarre insult sparked a nationwide movement, and we'll use some really insightful data and expert perspectives to understand exactly what's driving all these young people into the streets.
So let's just jump right in. The very first thing you're probably wondering is why on earth are thousands of Indian students proudly calling themselves cockroaches, right? It is a pretty jarring, bizarre name for a massive wave of protests sweeping through New Delhi, but you have to admit it grabs your attention immediately.
Well, to answer that, let's clearly define who this group actually is. CJP stands for the Cockroach Janta Party. Basically, it's a massive youth-led protest movement demanding deep education reform and strict political accountability. But the most interesting part of their identity is how they named themselves. They did it by actively reclaiming a harsh, derogatory insult. It's honestly a brilliant piece of modern political branding, and we'll trace exactly where that insult came from in just a second.
Section 1, Chaos in New Delhi, the flashpoint. Right now, if you look near India's parliament, thousands of people, primarily students, have gathered, and the situation has escalated significantly. These protesters have been met with tear gas and a heavy police crackdown involving batons. And their core demand? They want the immediate resignation of the Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan. Now, amidst all this chaos, all this tear gas and police action, the CJP leaders actually managed to meet with a senior minister and formally submit a letter spelling out their exact demands.
To really get a sense of the energy on the streets, listen to how one protesting student actually put it. They said, "I voted for this government, so I think it's accountable to answer our questions. The rotten system is not taking action and cannot see the pain of the students." That's so crucial to understand. These aren't seasoned traditional political activists. These are everyday voters, everyday students, and they're simply demanding basic democratic accountability from the very people they put into power.
Section 2. Reclaiming the Cockroach. The name.
Okay, so where did this name come from? The spark for this entire movement actually came from the absolute highest levels of the Indian judiciary. The Supreme Court Chief Justice made a comment that was perceived as a severe insult. He was talking about young, unemployed people, specifically those from lesser-known universities who aren't highly credentialed, and he compared them to cockroaches, heavily implying they were unemployed by choice.
It is fascinating to watch how this insult completely backfired. First, the Chief Justice issues that highly controversial cockroach comment. Next, a leader of the movement, who was actually all the way in Boston at the time, sends out this simple yet incredibly powerful tweet. What if all the cockroaches came together? And almost immediately, the youth completely reclaimed the insult. They internalized it and spun it into a badge of honor. It became their ultimate rallying cry.
And the raw numbers, they show just how deeply this resonated. Get this, the CSJP gained 50,000 members in just 24 hours. That is an absolutely explosive rate of growth for a grassroots organization. It proves that this widespread feeling of alienation was already there simmering beneath the surface. It literally just needed a match to light it. But their digital footprint is even more staggering. They crossed 1.2 million Instagram followers in a single day. Since they launched in May, this Gen Z movement has entirely captured the nation's attention online. These young people felt like nobody was listening to them, nobody was taking their issues seriously, so they just built their own massive platform overnight.
Section 3. The Broken Exam System. The Trigger.
So what actually triggered all this? Let's walk through the repeated scandals that have plagued India's education system recently, which ultimately pushed the leader of the CJP to go on a hunger strike. First off, questions for highly competitive medical exams were literally leaked in advance, totally destroying the integrity of the test. Then, the online marking system used for high school tests experienced massive technical glitches. And finally, on top of all that, it came to light that there was deep corruption in the actual bidding process, meaning entirely unqualified companies were being given the contract for this on-screen marking. It's just a massive web of systemic failure.
And the real-world impact of these failures? It's hard to overstate. We're talking about millions of aspiring medical students who were forced to completely reset their exams last month, all because of those leaks. Imagine dedicating years of your life, years of intense studying for a life-altering exam, only to have the whole thing invalidated by sheer bureaucratic incompetence. When you put it into that perspective, it's incredibly easy to see why students are expressing such intense frustration.
Section 4. A generation's anxiety. The deeper root.
If we zoom out a bit, Columbia University's Rumela Sen identifies a core societal divide that is truly driving this whole movement. On one side, you've got the older elite and the decision-makers, mostly concentrated in the capital city, living in fashionable gated communities. But on the other side, you have these alienated suburban youth. They often come from lower caste or lower class backgrounds, they're facing rapidly drawing opportunities, and crucially, they feel they are being actively blamed and scapegoated by the elites for their own lack of success.
Sin points out something vital here. This isn't just happening in India. It's actually part of a much broader Gen Z uprising happening across South Asia. We're seeing it in places like Bangladesh, Nepal, and even further out in Indonesia. There's a deep generational anxiety about unemployment right now, and there's a stark, very real sense that the political elites have absolutely zero understanding of the fear these young people are facing when it comes to their education and their futures.
Section 5. Crackdowns and accountability, the reaction and future.
Now, we saw earlier that the police are using tear gas and batons on these students, but sociologically speaking, state repression in a democracy almost always backfires. When the government cracks down forcefully on young protesters, it tends to create widespread moral outrage. And that outrage actually strengthens the social movement, attracting ordinary citizens who are just appalled by the level of force being used against their own students.
Which brings us right back to the protesters' core grievance, accountability. You know, in past Indian tradition, if there was a major failure, say a tragic train accident, a minister would step up, take moral responsibility, and resign. But in the current crisis, despite a staggering web of exam leaks, massive marking discrepancies, and tender corruption that has affected literally millions of lives, there haven't been any high-level resignations. The standard for accountability seems to have fundamentally shifted, and the youth are completely refusing to accept it.
Because of that exact lack of accountability, this movement is evolving fast. It is no longer just young people out there protesting. Middle-class citizens and parents have actually joined the streets right alongside them. Even prominent Indian figures, like Sonam Wangchuk, have stepped up to lend their support. The whole focus is widened from just exam leaks to the entire future of social mobility in the country. Parents are looking at this situation and realizing, wow, my children simply do not have the same future or the same opportunities that my generation had.
For decades, education has been the ultimate tool for social mobility in India. It was the great equalizer. But if that system is no longer fair and if it's no longer accessible, then what happens next to the world's largest democracy? It's a huge, defining question, and it's one that the Cockroach Janta Party is forcing the entire nation to answer right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, everyone. I really hope this helped you understand the incredible complexities behind this Gen Z uprising. Catch you next time.